think you should.
Welcome back to this week's episode of Whoscussion. We're going to be covering Bad Blood, the next story in our journey through season 26B, and One Small Step, a second Doctor short trip, the first in the single short trip range. Bad Blood, Harry Scully, take us away.
All right, we got Bad Blood. Right, so immediately starts off with the Doctor appearing in his TARDIS, because that's how it does. And we meet up with some Native Americans in the year 1875, who apparently are aware that the Doctor has come. And he's sort of just like, okay, interesting. Not sure how you know about that. It's all good. So they take him off to their chieftain, who is Sitting Bull. Anyone who is aware of, I guess just any American, they probably are well aware of this if they know their history at all. Sitting Bull is from one of the Native American tribes during the Gold Rush and the like. And they suffered some things.
They most certainly did.
Yeah, so understandably, the Eighth Doctor is absolutely friend of the Native American compared to the Americans during that time. So, and when he gets there, the Sitting Bull tells him that a giant bird told him that he was coming, and that some bad things are coming as well. The Doctor's like, of course, I got here. Bad things are gonna just come anyway, or whatever. It's all good. I deal with this every day, man. So they decide to go off to the closest town. The Doctor's like, hey, you guys should probably not take your whole army. That'll probably scare some people. And Sitting Bull's like, yeah, you're right. So you're already helping us out, Doctor. And he's like, yeah.
Oh, you've got
so
me there.
They go to the town, and it looks like there's nobody there. But they find the dead body of a priest, who we saw in a little bit of a meanwhile sort of panel, I guess.
Yeah.
Where a priest was killed by something unknown to us. And we see this. We finally see this priest. Well, not really see him. We just sort of get
They're not Jonathan Nathan Turner.
We get a panel. Yeah, we get a panel of them talking about seeing him, rather than actually getting a picture of him being ripped to shreds, which is nice, I guess. And then we get surrounded by some American cavalry, particularly General George Custer and his men.
Yes.
Which is another interesting thing there, but yeah, I won't give you a history lesson or anything. So immediately, he's assuming the worst of these Native Americans, and they're assuming the worst of him, basically, and hoping not to get shot. And eventually, they get attacked by what kind of looked like werewolves initially, where they're all hairy and they've got the doggy sort of feel to them, and yeah, they're immediately like, okay, we need to band together to fight these because this is crazy, and they run away.
I like how even Custer's on board. He's like, we need a truce now.
Because he was an intelligent general. He wasn't a dumb person. He was just kind of bad there in the end, and does have some things coming for him. But anyway, so bad werewolf-looking things. They fight them off. They try to they kind of fight them off. They fight off a couple of them. Have to retreat back to higher ground sort of deal. Climb up a cliff face. Yes, they end up with the high groundo, and they sit up there and they start talking about what's going on. The Native American tell them basically that they believe that they are the kind of thing that they've talked about in their their history. I guess some of their folklore is that these creatures are the Wendigo. I think that I'm saying that right.
You are.
Which is a creature. Depending on where you read it, basically, it's generally someone who's committed extreme acts, normally associated with cannibalism, or murder or greed, and basically gets you possessed and turns you into a bad thing, basically, which seems to be what they're trying to go for here. Differently, though, they talk about how the scream of a Wendigo is supposed to freeze men in their tracks, and these don't seem to be able to do that. So the doctor's like, it's still possible, you could just been embellishing there, really. But they realize that the reason why they would attack earlier is because they're not a fan of the light either. So the doctor rigs up some gunpowder and iron filings to make flashbang grenades, because he's the Doctor, the Eighth Doctor in particular. So they use those to fend off some of the Wendigo. But then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a spaceship comes down and blasts them with laser beams. And the Doctor's like, okay, what's going on here? It's Jodafra and Destry, who we saw previously in the Izzy comics.
Yes, we did. Yeah, Izzy.
Finally get some people back in there. Yeah.
Oh, but the Doctor doesn't go back, according to New Who.
Anyway, so get some people there. They show up. They're like, "Hey, we helped you out. We're all cool." And the Doctor's like, "Hey, you guys are actually helping for once. That's cool." Destry, I'm still kind of eyeing you up here. No. So, the Jodafra says to everybody that they can come on board the ship. Says to the leaders anyway, Sitting Bull and all that. Sitting Bull decides not to. He's kind of not keen on the whole, like, you look like a cat but as a person sort of deal. So he's not. So he bugs out with his dudes. But General Custer and the Doctor go up to talk to him. Immediately, the Doctor kind of figures that something very interesting is going on here. Jodafra seems to have some things. What's the word? He is scheming in some way, and the Doctor's not too much of a fan of it. And eventually, we find out that he's basically promised Custer advanced weapons to take over the world, basically. And yeah, we're kind of like, that's not really what's supposed to happen, so it could be bad. The Doctor escapes the ship. Like, doesn't really escape. He gets let out of the ship, and he goes back to Sitting Bull and decides to have a vision quest with them, because of course, I mean, anyway, he explains the reason behind the whole vision quest thing, and Sitting Bull's like, yeah, you use extremely long words to explain simple things. That's great. So they talk to the giant bird. The giant bird gives, of course you don't understand, I'm speaking in riddles sort of deal. And then they come up against the spirit of the Wendigo, which is also in the spirit realm as well. And they're kind of a bit stuck there for a bit. And as Grass could die, spirits get ripped away. Luckily, the Doctor is, kind of on the ball with his psychic stuff, so he manages to call out for help, get splashed with water so he can save them. And they come back, and they've actually slept through the whole night for this, and the Doctor's like, oh, okay. Not particularly good. Eventually, he figures out that the reason why the Wendigo have come is because they have, what's the word? They're feeding on the alcoholism, basically. Anyone who's ingested alcohol is susceptible for the Wendigo, which also falls in line with the idea of the folklore of the Wendigo, which is that extreme acts are just anything not natural, which is, but also particularly in the case of the Native Americans is people who are not from the Native Americans and have weird things about them, which is, alcohol and drunkenness. So it makes sense in that sort of way. It's interesting. But basically, because Custer doesn't drink alcohol, he's not affected by this. And, he has a little bit of a running away scene, which is pretty funny. But not before.
Get out of my goddamn way!
Yeah. Not before any of the, before the Americans capture like the Native American children, and like are about to sacrifice them to the Wendigo god as well, which is really interesting. Jodafra is there to. He's basically made a deal with the Wendigo spirit that he's gonna use his. He's using his time power. He's using the fact that he's traveled in time to bring the Wendigo spirit into our world properly.
Which makes a lot of sense because, I mean, like, we've had in the past with time radiation and chronons doing this, having
definitely
to warp stuff within the canon.
Yeah. It definitely makes sense. It definitely fits in perfectly. It's just really interesting, like, that they fill that in there, that, because he's traveled through time, that's why Wendigo could come out, and, but to him to actually, like, proper, like, be solid, he needs to have the same sort of deal with the other Wendigos, where he needs to consume untainted people, basically. So initially, Destry thought that meant that they were going to sacrifice just a couple of Native Americans to him, not children. But Jodafra's totally going to sacrifice all the children to the Wendigo. And Destry's not too happy about that. Mainly because the Doctor talks her out of it. So she shoots the console, ruining all the plans, and the Doctor saves the day by burning the Wendigo with fiery arrows, because, Doctor.
I have the high ground, Wendigo.
Eventually...
Fire arrows!
Anyway, so Jodafra runs... Well, Jodafra runs off, Destry tries to follow suit. Jodafra gets really mad and just punches Destry out, basically. He is not a good uncle. And he runs off. And the Doctor tries to chase him down, and he manages to escape, but finds Destry. And this is where the Doctor finally has adventures with Destry. Yeah!
Woo! I'm fully actually looking forward to that.
Good stuff. So it was an interesting story. I liked the history elements to it. I don't feel like we have enough actual like historical stuff going on these days.
I'd be keen for a historical story. That's what I think was quite good about Thin Ice, is that was as close as we could get, I think, within the New Who restraints. Yeah,
I feel like we don't need alien elements all the time as well.
Yeah,
that's just basically my deal, is that if we have a historical, I want it just to be like a historical event, and the Doctor just to solve things just by his smarts, not because
I would love him
alien.
to be in an event where he can't solve it. Like, it'd be cool to have him maybe come to New Zealand during the Power Wars and just have to sit there and watch as like Māori are decimated. I think I'd be really interested to see that.
I mean,
like,
sure.
I can't do anything. It's like during the Jacobite Rebellion, he couldn't save anybody.
Yeah. I feel like that would probably go into the JNT era of things.
Yeah, it probably would.
Terrible bad things happening. I feel like just having just any period in history that's not a war, basically, and just have him be there and deal with like a human problem with human things and solve it by talking things out, basically, not. Or, maybe a little bit of fighting, but not like not solving it because sci-fi reasons, solving it because he figured some stuff out and got through it. It's all well and good to have like sci-fi, and because it's it's a sci-fi show, but sometimes because it's a time travel show, you should just go back in time and have it be about being back in time.
Yeah, I would love that. Not
about aliens. So this is getting very close to that. Because the only real element of like sci-fi is to it was Jodafra and Destry, Because in theory, we could say that the Wendigo, myth and folklore is based on this, so it could theoretically be real. I mean, it's still fiction, of course, obviously, but it's closer to being historically accurate than what we'll ever see, basically, these days.
Yeah.
So
I think we could definitely have him in a historical event trying to help things out. It'd be cool if maybe he helps with the Magna Carta being signed.
Yeah, I mean, because we almost got that with like the Pompeii thing as well. But then it turns out
that would have been superior without the alien element. If it was just the Doctor having to come to terms with like when he shouldn't save people because of time, I think that would have been a better dynamic.
It would have been, but I guess it's also like it's the precursor to him doing the Waters on Mars thing as well. Is that he's still thinking, I can't do this. But anyway, we'll get to that story when we actually get to it. But it would be nice to have more historical stories get closer and closer to being historical and have their problems be solved, not just because the Doctor's the Doctor, but because he's smart and he does cool things, and maybe even might have companions.
The first Doctor's trips when he was in history without tech. It's like he had to like think his way out of situations. Like the first ever story of Doctor Who ever, the entire Unearthly's Child arc, he had to think his way out of situations because they were cave people.
Exactly. Like even as future sci-fi stuff, it was all like thinking out of stuff, no waving of magic wands. But I mean, I guess that's the initial problem that we're having at the moment is the waving of the magic wand.
Yeah, it needs to go.
But even then, like it's just the enemy doesn't have to be the antagonist doesn't have to be sci-fi related. It doesn't have to be an alien or anything. And I like where they went with the nice where there is a sci-fi element to it. But when it comes down to it, the idea of him going back in time is not going back in time and having sci-fi things happen. It's going back in time and having back in time things happen. That's why he's got a time machine. If it was just about having sci-fi things happen, then he doesn't even have to be on Earth, He could just go to another planet that's at the same time period as we were before and have some sci-fi things happen because of it. Like it doesn't have to be on Earth if you're not gonna like keep true to Earth, basically. Like if you're not gonna keep true to Earth's history, then there's no point in going back in time on Earth. Like you could do it anywhere else. So I don't know. Yeah. I feel like our part B's end up turning into this, where we're like Big Finish and the other places are doing it better. And
it happens too frequently, unfortunately. The other places are doing it better.
Yeah, so I don't know. We're still a couple of months out from the Christmas special, and then even more months out from having Chernobyl back. So there's still hope. There's still hope.
There definitely is hope, and I loved his work, his work in general, but I'm so worried we're just going to end up with Moffat Mark II.
Yeah.
I'm so worried about that.
Well, if he does what he's saying and has a team instead of just trying to write it himself, or if he has a proper like bounce off team rather than one person writing a story at once, then we might get something really good.
Yeah, I agree. My thoughts on Bad Blood are I thought it was an interesting way to bring Destry back. Jennifer, that was interesting. I never thought he'd do that because when the Doctor and him met on Oblivion, he seemed a lot more level-headed.
Yeah, but he was still like anti-people in general.
He was indeed. The only person he cared about was his niece.
Yeah.
And it was interesting to see him turn on her. I understand why he did turn though, is because like he was like, I gave you the universe and you betrayed me. But I mean, still, he beat the crap out of her, man. And I was like, that doesn't make you a better guy, man. It really doesn't. The Doctor deciding to save Destry. I mean, that's in his character, you know. He knows that Destry was just sort of following her uncle around. I mean, we don't know how age works for them, and she definitely seems like she might still be a teen. She's not really sort of. She acts like kind of like a kid.
I think she was about, honestly, about the same age as Izzy. Like she's got the same.
Like
she's at the same. Yeah, she's at the same level as Izzy. Basically, she's Izzy but kind of evil.
Yeah. I'm wondering if the Doctor's going to be like trying to teach her to just not be kind of evil. I think I don't know. It's going to be interesting how their adventures unfold. I thought it was a little bit J&T that Free was going to straight up sacrifice those kids.
That was pretty.
Yeah, especially since the drawings of the children in Fear were like, they were very detailed. I was like, did you need to be this detailed for showing kids scared for their lives?
Yeah, totally.
There was
Machine.
sort of a they had to. They were J&T living inside them in spirit. I thought it was quite cool that Wankatanka, which is a prominent folklore figure for the Native Americans, is actually a temporal being. I think that works nicely with the Doctor Who canon as well, since we know there are literal time gods. And the Doctor was like, "Oh, I get it. We're on the astral plane." And the Native American guy was like, "Dude, just roll with it, okay? Just roll with it."
I do like that, and that's the thing is like a lot of sci-fi shows do that, especially American ones. I guess British ones don't really need to worry about that, but a lot of American TV shows, especially X-Files mainly is what I'm trying to talk about here. So they give true life to Native American folklore, which is really nice, especially when especially considering the kind of bad things that they did to Native Americans. It's at least something to say, hey, their folklore is true, basically. It's really nice to say that, to give a good reason for their folklore to effectively be true, and it's something that I really appreciate, and I really wish that that other countries that have had this happen, had colonialism happen to them, basically, did the same thing where they bring out that sort of stuff. And I know that other countries do kind of do it, but not in the same way. It's just, I guess most of them don't really have like full blown like 5 to 20 season long sci-fi shows. So
you've actually reminded me of the Wendigo episode from the X-Files. I love that episode. It's phenomenal. And it was interesting because like I know at the time people didn't like the fact that Mulder wasn't in the show anymore. But I like the guy that replaced him. He was the T-1000. The T-1000 replaced Mulder, right? And I'm okay with that.
Yeah, but no, Mulder was the X-Files. I mean,
yeah, but
and that's why when the X-Files came back recently, it was Mulder and Scully, not T-1000.
Not T-1000. It's so bad because I know that guy's name, but it's not coming to my mind at the moment. But yeah, I quite like Bad Blood. I think it's a good read. It's part of the Flood graphic novel, so you can pick this up on Comixology. And we're going to go into our last story for this week, which is One Small Step. It's really, 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 really short.
Yes.
It goes back to the short trips of the past for us with how would you say? With the first volume of the short trips range. This is part of the single short trips. The single short trips are audio adapted versions of the short trips from the novels. This is the first one that was picked out. This was written by Nicholas Briggs. I believe this was one of his first actual parts in the EU. Was writing for that novel. Cool. One Small Step is the second Doctor, Jamie and Zoe. And they're in the English countryside, in the Isle of Wight. I can't remember where that is. So they're in the British countryside, in the Isle of Wight. The moon landing is on television, and the Doctor is getting an ice cream. And this is a bit like
a lot of stuff happens during during the first time that humans step on the moon, the Doctor does a lot of things everywhere.
He's killing off the silence, and that boy won't know the command now. So that's a bit bad. He needs to chuck that kid in there.
He'll see it like later on in his life, but
I suppose, yeah.
His parents will know, and that's enough.
That is enough. Dad probably has a shotgun. They live out in the countryside. All good. The beginning of the story actually has the young boy talking about. So it's a flash forward, which usually I'm not a fan of flash forwards, but this one I think was handled quite nicely because you don't know it's a flash forward until the end. Is the young boy is in the bath and he is just thinking about life. Basically, he has this like existential crisis while he's washing his toes.
Like every kid,
and he talks to someone through the door.
Mm-hmm.
The story then revolves around the second Doctor, Jamie and Zoe. The second Doctor's used the invisibility feature of the TARDIS. The thing I always found weird about that, and they do reuse it in the 11th Doctor's run, so thank you again, Moffat, for sticking to some canon. The thing I've always found weird about that is if there's a invisibility cloak, why do they use the chameleon circuit?
Because how are you supposed to get back into it?
How are you supposed to get back into it? That's a good point. I retract my earlier statement, Governor. That I fully just realised that doesn't make any sense. They should use the chameleon circuit. That would work way better.
I mean, if he had a mod that like hit it and unhit it, whatever, then sure. But yeah, it is weird. I think that being a chameleon is a lot more technologically advanced, and it's basically just the Time Lords like showing off. Is they're like, we can turn it invisible, but we're not going to do that.
We're not going to do that. Chameleon circuit. It's cool. It's hip. It's what all the kids are talking about at the academy. You need to pick one up today. Hello there. Welcome to TARDIS Extraordinaires. You want to pick one up? Invisible? I got you. Billy Boo from Down Shebogan. I want that. I want that ad now. Make it happen. Make it happen, Big Finish. Shebogan selling old TARDISes. That'd be so funny. Second-hand TARDISes for Shebogans. They wouldn't be able to drive it.
They would not be allowed to do that. It would be extremely illegal.
Yeah, I could imagine the Time Lords being like, you remember our treaty? You're not allowed anywhere near our culture. Go away. Yeah.
You understand that these are powered by the Eye of Harmony, right? If we know that these are there, like, you can't do this.
The name's Bob Zellaw, Shebogan at heart. So the Jamie and Zoe are playing around in the sand, and the Doctor has a chat with the young boy from the beginning, and the young boy steps out onto the road and is hit by a car. And we go...
You gotta point out that was totally the Doctor's fault, by the way.
It was fully the Doctor's fault, because he tells the boy to run home, and the Doctor's like, I just got that kid killed.
Just crippled.
Yeah. The Doctor decides to break the first law of time. It's even explained that he's performing an illegal maneuver on the TARDIS console. A forbidden maneuver on the TARDIS console, and he goes back in time and he tries to fix it. And it appears that Jamie and Zoe have been reliving these events for some time.
I don't think so. I feel like they went back a little too far, and they had to relive a lot of their stuff.
Okay, yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, it says here that it was actually that they went back too far in time and had to live there for a couple of months. Because the Doctor was like, I'm not good at driving this thing because I haven't become the third Doctor and saved Gallifrey from Omega, so so I can't drive it just yet. Yeah. So thanks to 10th anniversary, we're gonna make him drive it properly. The Doctor and Jamie and Zoe are just chilling there, and the Doctor ends up basically saving that kid so he can, in the future, be washing his toes and talking to the Doctor through the door. It's really short. It's really bite-sized. I feel like out of all the Doctors, 2 and 5 would have been the ones to break time for this kid. I can't imagine any of the other Doctors doing it. Not even 11, to be honest. He'll be like, it's real sad, but I'm not going to break time for you, kid.
I could see 10 trying it and then failing miserably because of some reason.
Right. It's just like, I'll just get 2 to do it. Calls up 2. 2, I need you to come fix it. Who's this?
Like he's just like sitting there, like rubbing his eyes, like, dude, please, just save me.
Save the boy, please, too.
I'm
It's like,
sorry,
"Oh,
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry. He goes and sees Wolf. And cries at Wolf, and then he goes like, I'm so sorry. Wolf's like, what are you even talking about? You're not meant to be here until Christmas, so I can watch you die, so hurry up. So yeah, so it's really bite-sized, but sort of a lot happens in the fact that nothing really happens. I don't know, it's weird. I liked it. That's pretty much the only thing I can say. I know there's not constructive criticism, but I just liked it. What were your thoughts on One Small Step, Harry Skilling?
It definitely harkened back to the old short trips that we had, where it's not even like, it doesn't have a real good like point to it.
Yeah.
It's not trying to say anything in particular. It's just trying to make you think about it. You know, it's like the Doctor, and give some more character to the Doctor as well. Like, you know, he clearly cares about people, and because he knows that he's the reason that this kid's never going to walk again, he just felt so bad about it, and he knew that he could do something about it, and it's not going to cause, like, it wouldn't cause terrible bad things, unlike, you know, killing Aztecs or anything. So he's all good with just casually going back in time and replaying the events out, and it's all good. It's interesting that no other Doctor does that ever again. But I'm guessing he's only allowed one, and he used it back when he was in his second regeneration.
Yeah, when he was in the second incarnation.
So the rest of them are not allowed to do it.
I need to save this kid, Joe. Oh, I can't. I forgot about it. That silly clown.
I guess it's also like probably like after the CIA thing as well. That he's probably like they've well told him, you absolutely cannot do this anymore. Like first was all like, I know the rules, I'm gonna play by the rules. Second's like, I've done some bad things, I'm gonna sort this out. And then yeah. And then CIA happens and they're like, no, don't do that again. And third's like, okay, fine, all right.
I won't. But I'm gonna try and break out of my exile. But just wait until Omega attacks us and we'll let you out of it. Fair call. Actually,
Omega's gonna do what? Don't even worry about it.
It's like, hush, Doctor. It's okay. Everything's gonna be okay.
So yeah, I liked it. It was a good short trip. Yeah, really, really short, proper original short trip. So there's not a lot to say about it, but it's definitely enjoyable. And yeah, if you've got 20 minutes in your day, you might as well listen to it. That's basically how those short trips work.
Yeah, I think it's only like 13 minutes long or something. Yeah, it was fairly short, but yeah, definitely pick it up.
You've got a lot of time in between, you know.
It's free now, so
yeah.
It's ultra free now, so just pick it up, guys. It's on their SoundCloud, Big Finish's SoundCloud. Not that we're paid by Big Finish, but Gary Russell's still waiting for their reply. It's been nearly 2 years, just hook a brother up. That'd be great, actually, getting Big Finish to officially support the channel. Anyways, guys, that's us for this week. We'll catch you next week.
All right.
Well, you know, you might not. I might get killed by the Sixth Doctor. Who knows?